Hello everyone. Today we will begin the next module in embedded systems, that is embedded system design concepts. So in this, we deal with different concepts that we use to design the embedded systems. We look at the characteristics of embedded systems, some quality attributes of the embedded systems, that means some features of embedded systems. Then we will see how hardware and software are co-designed, okay, and we will also see some application specific embedded systems and domain specific embedded systems with examples. Then we will see how hardware and software are co-designed, and there are different modeling techniques that is used to design the embedded systems. To begin with, we will first look at what are the characteristics and quality attributes of embedded systems. So first we have the characteristics of embedded systems. Here, as we know, embedded systems, they possess certain specific characteristics. Unlike general computing systems, they have distinct characteristics which are unique to each embedded system. So some of the important characteristics, so we can list them. They are application and domain specific. Embedded systems are reactive and real time in nature. They operate in harsh environments. Embedded systems are distributed. They are of small size and weight, and the power concerns. So these are the different characteristics of embedded systems. So we will look at them one by one. So first is application and domain specific. This is what we have been telling from the beginning, that embedded systems are, they perform specific functions. So they are specific for one particular application and a particular domain. So each embedded system has certain functions to perform, and they are developed in such a manner to do the intended functions only. So they cannot be used for any other purpose. Okay. So whatever the task is for which it is designed for, only that task it will perform. Others it will not. Others it cannot do, based on the hardware that is it is designed, or the code that is inbuilt in it. So they cannot be used for any other purpose. For example, I have been giving this example, right? The embedded control unit of a microwave oven cannot be replaced with an air conditioner's embedded control unit, because the embedded control units of microwave oven and air conditioner, they are specifically designed to perform certain specific tasks. So you cannot change the control units of two different embedded systems just because both of them are embedded systems, right? So you cannot change the embedded system or the embedded control unit of an oven with an air conditioner, or with the washing machine, or with the television, right? So they are all different applications. So the control units of each device or each embedded system is designed specifically for that particular application only. Similarly, an embedded control unit developed for a particular domain, for example, if you say a telecom domain, it cannot be replaced with another control unit designed to serve another domain like consumer electronics. For example, a television, the control unit of a television cannot be replaced with the control unit of some embedded device in telecom domain like a router, because both are different, right? Or something from an automotive domain, from a car, you cannot change some embedded control unit, or you cannot replace it with some embedded control unit from some security applications. So that way, every embedded system is application and domain specific. That's the first characteristic of an embedded system. Next, it is reactive and real time. So as we know, embedded systems are reactive. That means they produce some change in the output to some action that has happened in the environment, right? So they are in constant interaction with the real world through some input ports which are connected to the sensors, right? Through sensors and user defined input devices which are connected to the input port of the system. So if any change is happening in the real world, which is called an event, okay, so those are captured or detected by the system by the sensors or the input devices in real time. That means when it is happening itself, it should be recognized and captured, and the control algorithm or the program running inside the unit, it reacts in a desired manner to bring the controlled output variables to the desired level. So that is what we have seen in an embedded systems, right? So some changes in the environment or the real world, they are detected by the sensor. Then a program is there which will run inside the embedded system to bring some change in the output variable. So that means they react to some changes in the input, to some changes in the environment, and that reaction has to be in real time. So they are both reactive and real time. So embedded systems produce changes in output in response to the changes in the input. So this does not mean that, so the whatever the changes are detected, they will be logged somewhere and someone comes and does some work. So it is not like that. So the output has to be processed, the things have to be processed and the changes have to be brought in the output in real time without any intervention of any user or programmer in between, right? So they produce changes in the output in response to the changes in the input. So they are generally referred to as reactive systems. Real time means timing behavior of system should be deterministic. Timing behavior is deterministic means we know exactly at what time what is going to happen, right? The system should respond to requests or tasks in a known amount of time. It cannot miss that particular time. That known amount of time is called the deadline. Okay, it should not miss any deadline for tasks or operations. So within a particular time, the tasks have to be completed. So it is not necessary that all embedded systems should be real time. Okay, there can be some relaxations. Okay, if it is real time, it should not miss any deadline. Again, we have seen in real time systems there may be hard real time systems where we cannot miss a deadline at all, and there are again soft real time systems where a certain, it will make a maximum attempt to reach the deadline, but if there is a small miss, it can be tolerated. So normally the systems or applications which are mission critical, like flight control systems or anti-lock brake systems in vehicles, so they are examples of real-time systems. Okay, so that's about the reactive and real-time characteristic of embedded systems. Next characteristic we have is the embedded systems operate in harsh environment. Okay, so the environment in which the embedded systems are deployed may be a dusty one where there is too much dust or wind, or a high temperature zone where temperature is extreme, or it may be very low, or an area subject to vibrations and shock. Okay, so the systems placed in such areas should be capable to withstand all these adverse operating conditions. Like sometimes, we might use embedded systems in a very hot place, maybe near to the equator, regions near to the equator, or some extremely cold places like near the poles, or maybe it might be some desert. Okay, maybe in some ships, if you are using in ships, there will be too much heat as well as humidity, because of the seawater, right? And the coastal region, it's having a different environment or weather compared to some region, maybe on the hills, right? So it should operate in all these things, and depending on where you are deploying, we can use those type of materials to build the embedded systems, right? So the design should take care of the operating conditions of the area where the system is going to implement. So if at all you are implementing for the equipments or embedded systems to be used in a ship, then you need to use marine components, right? Marine grade equipment, which will not get rusted. So, but the same thing if you are using in some cool places like maybe in hill stations or something, there you need not use those things because marine equipment are normally expensive compared to the normal equipment. That's why you need not go for that. You can use normal grade equipment, right? So there'll be a, you will be knowing where it is going to use. The designer should be made aware of where the embedded system will be deployed. Depending on that, he can make a design, or the manufacturer can use those suitable components depending on where it is going to be used. Okay. For example, if the system needs to be deployed in a high temperature zone, then all the components used in the system should be of high temperature grade. Similarly, if it is used in a coastal region or in ships, or yeah, then marine grade equipment has to be used. Also, proper shock absorption techniques should be provided for if the systems are used in places which are subject to high shock. Okay, then power supply fluctuations, corrosion, and component aging, these are the other factors that need to be taken into consideration for embedded systems to work in harsh environments. So other things also happen, right? Some fluctuations in the power, maybe in during rainy seasons, then corrosion and aging of the components with time. So these are all some factors that need to be considered. Next characteristic of embedded system is they are distributed. Distributed means it is not a one complete system, but this means distributed means embedded systems may be a part of larger systems. So there is a one big system. In that there are small parts of embedded systems. Each of them is an embedded system. Okay, so many numbers of such distributed embedded systems, they form a single large embedded control unit. For example, you can take one example of an automatic vending machine. What is an automatic vending machine? So it's some machine, which will automatically give you something if you pay it something. Like there will be a card reader, or there might be some coin insert slot, where if you insert some 5 rupee coin, you'll get a tea or coffee of 1 cup, or you might get Coke or Pepsi. You might, if you have been to Gulf, I've heard there are vending machines for Coke and Pepsi, right? So that way, if you insert some money, it will automatically give. There'll be no person receiving the accepting the money and giving you things. It is a machine which accepts the money and gives you things. That is called automatic vending machine. So the money, these days the coin slots are replaced by card readers, okay, and a vending unit. So each of them are independent embedded units. So there is a card reader. It is an embedded unit. It will perform the functioning of reading the card, authenticating it, and deducting the money from your account. Then there is a vending unit which does the function of, if the money is paid, then it will give out 1 unit of whatever the thing you are demanding for. If it's if it's coffee, then 1 cup of coffee. If it's tea, 1 cup of tea. If it's Coke, 1 unit of that Coke can. So that way. Okay. So each of them are independent embedded units, but they work in sync, right? They work together to perform the overall vending function. Another example is your ATM, automated teller machine. Even here, it is a combination of different embedded functions. So it contains a card reader embedded unit, which is responsible for reading and validating users ATM card. Depending on you swipe it or you insert it, then you enter the pin, then it will authenticate, right? Then a transaction unit for performing transactions. So you can either debit money, or you can credit money, you can transfer money, right? Chain the pin. So those are different transactions you can perform. For that, there is a different embedded system. Then there is a currency counter, which counts the currency notes depending on the amount that you have asked it for, and it will dispatch it for dispatching or vending currency to the authorized person. Even if you are crediting the money into account, it will accept the money and it will count it, right? And a printer unit for printing the transaction details. So there are different embedded units for different functions, and all together it works as a single large embedded control unit. So we can visualize these as independent embedded systems, but they work together to achieve a common goal, that is to what to perform the function of a banker, right? Another typical example of a distributed embedded system is SCADA. SCADA is supervisory control and data acquisition, which is used in control systems or instrumentation applications. So they contain physically distributed individual embedded control units, which are connected to a supervisory module. So they are all different independent systems, but they are connected to a supervisory module, and they form a overall SCADA system, supervisory control and data acquisition system. Okay. Another thing about the embedded system is its characteristic is small weight and size. The product aesthetics is an important factor in choosing a product. Normally, when you buy a product, you will look at how it looks. Okay, not just the functions, but how it looks also is very important. So when you plan to buy a new mobile phone, you may make a comparative study on pros and cons of the products. So you will go through its aesthetics. Apart from the features, the memory, or any other thing, the look is also very important, right? That means if it is very large, if you buy a mobile phone, if it's very large, if it is not handy, there are chances you might not choose it, right? If it's very heavy also, which you cannot carry in your pocket, it's very difficult. The shape is also important. If it's very awkward shape or an outdated style, an outdated look, you will not buy it, right? So it should be a very compact device, right? So people believe in the phrase small is beautiful, right? Small is beautiful when it comes to embedded products. Okay. So moreover, it is convenient to handle a compact device than a bulky product, because most of the embedded systems, they are handheld devices. If it's very bulky or very heavy, you cannot carry it, so you will not be considering it. That's why it has to have small weight and small size. So in embedded domain also, compactness is a significant deciding factor. Most of the application demands small sized and low weight products. Okay. So next, coming to the power concerns. So this is next characteristic of embedded systems. Power management is another important factor that needs to be considered in designing embedded systems, because most of the embedded systems are battery based systems. The power efficiency has to be very high. That means the usage of power has to be as less as possible. So embedded systems should be designed in such a way as to minimize the heat dissipation by the system, right? The production of high amount of heat demands cooling requirements again, like cooling fans, which in turn occupies additional space and make the system bulky. If it uses more power, that means more heat is dissipated, then it has to be cooled down, for which some cooling equipment has to be used, like fans and something, which again will add the space and it will make the system more large. Okay, so select the design according to the low power requirements, like low dropout regulators and controllers or processors with power saving modes. Okay, so these can be considered while designing the embedded system. Also, power management is a critical constraint in battery operated application. The more the power consumption, the less is the battery life. That's why we have to choose embedded systems which have better power management facilities. So this is about the characteristics of embedded systems. So we have listed 6 of them: application and domain specific, reactive and real time, operates in harsh environment, and distributed, right? Then small weight and size, then power concerns. Okay. So next thing that we have is the quality attributes of embedded systems. So what are the quality attributes? Quality attributes are the non-functional requirements that need to be documented properly in any system design. So it's like some attributes we distinctively find and note down those things, okay, so that it will help in designing the embedded system. So if the quality attributes are more concrete and measurable, it will give a positive impact on the system development process and the end product. So there are two types, or it can be classified into two types. One is operational quality attributes and non-operational quality attributes. Operational quality attributes are those which are considered when the embedded systems are operational. That means when they are working. Okay. Non-operational quality attributes are those which are considered when it is not in working condition. Okay. That means it is not related to the operation of the embedded system. Okay. First, we will see what is operational quality attributes. They represent the relevant quality attributes related to embedded system when it is in operational mode or online mode. That means when it is working in function, when it is functional. The important operational quality attributes, there are 6 operational quality attributes, that is response, throughput, reliability, maintainability, security, and safety. So these are the operational quality attributes. First is response. So what is response? Response is a measure of quickness of the system. That means how fast the embedded system tracks the changes in the input variables. Okay, that is the response. How it responds to changes. That gives the measure of the quickness of the system. It gives an idea of how fast the system is tracking the changes in the input variables. Most of the embedded systems demand fast response, which should be almost real time. That means as soon as it is happening, it should be recognized. Okay, for example, an embedded system deployed in flight control applications, these are the mission critical systems, it should respond in a real time manner. Any response delay in the system will create potential damages to the safety of the flight as well as the passengers. So it will cause huge damage to life and property. Okay, so it has to be real time, but it is not necessary that all embedded systems should be real time in response. For example, the response time requirement for an electronic toy, it is not at all time critical. Okay, nothing is going to happen if there is a delay in recognizing whatever the inputs you give to a toy, right? So there is no specific deadline that this system should respond within this particular timeline, but you can measure, it is a measurable quantity, so it is one of the quality attributes, response. So next is throughput. Throughput is a measure of efficiency of the system. Okay, efficiency, how efficient your system is. It can be defined as the rate of production or operation of a defined process over a stated period of time. Okay, so in a particular time, how much operations it does. If it's in the manufacturing thing, how many units it manufactures. If it's a card reading operation, how many times the card gets read. Okay, so that gives the throughput of a particular system. The rates can be expressed in terms of units of products, batches produced, or any other meaningful measurements. So something which is measurable, right? In case of a card reader, throughput means how many transactions the reader can perform in a minute, or in an hour, or in a day, depending on where you are going to use it, right? The throughput is generally measured in terms of benchmark. Benchmark means a reference point, okay, or a reference point by which something can be measured. So benchmark, it is set, it can be a set of performance criteria that a product is expected to meet, or a standard product that can be used for comparing other products of the same product line. Okay, so it is set by the performance measurers. Okay, to normally it will be a comparison. You'll compare one particular product with other depending on the benchmark, whether it is better than that or whether it is uh, not meeting the standards. So those things can be measured using the benchmark. Next quality attribute, operational quality attribute, is reliability. You know the general meaning of reliability, whether it is reliable means whether you can depend on it, right? So it is not exactly the same as dependability, because that is another quality attribute. So how much you can rely on it, we'll use the same term, rely, right? It is a measure of how much percentage you can rely upon the proper functioning of the system, or what is the percentage susceptibility of the system to failures. Okay, reliability means by how much time the system does not fail, that you can call reliability. Okay, there are two terms we use to define the reliability. One is mean time between failures, or MTBF in short. So that means it gives the frequency of failures in hours, weeks, or months. That means if there is a failure today, okay, so when will be the next failure, that will give the average time between failures. Okay, so if it is measured, if you take different samples of it and take average, that will give the mean time between failures. It should not fail very often. If it does not fail very often, then you can say it is a reliable system. And one more thing, or one more term we have, is mean time to repair. If it fails, it has to be repaired. So how much time it takes to repair? The average time for the system, for a failed system to get repaired, is called mean time to repair. So it specifies how long the system is allowed to be out of order following a failure. Okay, that means how much time it takes. In other words, it is how much time it takes to repair. That means till that time it will be out of order. It means not functioning. For an embedded system with critical application need, it should be of the order of minutes. Within some minutes, it should be repaired and back to functioning mode. Okay, so this is about the reliability. Next operational quality attribute we have is maintainability. Okay, how good it is to maintain. So, or how much maintenance it needs. So maintainability deals with support and maintenance to the end user or client in case of technical issues and product failures, or on the basis of a routine system checkup. So normally maintenance, they are periodic, right, or event based. Event based means suppose some crash happens, you need to fix it. Those are event based, right? If some crash happens, then you have to fix it. Then suppose it's time based or periodic, like every 1 year you have to perform some checks, or if even every 1 week you have to perform some checks. Those are periodic maintenance. So both this reliability and maintainability, they are considered as two complementary disciplines. A more reliable system means a system with less corrective maintainability requirements and vice versa. Right? If it is more reliable, then the maintenance will be less. If it is less reliable, then there will be too much maintenance cost. Right? So those are the things. Maintainability, it can again be classified into two categories: scheduled or periodic maintenance. So that is what I said, right? Scheduled or periodic maintenance, that is preventive maintenance, and maintenance to unexpected failures, that is corrective maintenance. Scheduled or periodic maintenance means after some period or after some number of events, you have to perform that maintenance. That is called preventive maintenance. To prevent any disorder later, we have to do it. For example, replacing the cartridge of a printer after some n number of cycles or n number of printouts to get quality prints. Okay, so printer is still working, but in order to see to it that the quality of the prints do not get reduced, we have to perform some maintenance check, that is to replace the cartridge of a printer after say some thousand number of prints. That is, nothing has happened yet, nothing, no system has not failed, it is still working, but to prevent the failure, you are performing a maintenance. Then there is corrective maintenance, that is maintenance to unexpected failure. That means the system has stopped working, then you are going to perform that maintenance. Okay, for example, repairing the printer if the paper feeding part fails. So some paper is not getting fed or the paper has stuck into the printer cartridge. So in that case, you have to repair it, you have to fix it. That is called corrective maintenance. Okay. Then it is also an indication of the availability of the product for use, whether the product is available. It gives an indication of that. In any embedded system, the ideal value for availability, it is given in terms of this formula. Okay, AI stands for availability in ideal condition. That is given by the ratio of, or it is mean time between failure divided by mean time between failure plus mean time to repair. So this is the formula or expression for availability. Mean time between failure divided by mean time between failure plus mean time to repair. So sometimes, they might give some parameters and they will ask you to find the availability. So there can be numerical examples on this. So let us solve this one example. The mean time between failure of an embedded product is 4 months. It is given the mean time between failure of an embedded product is 4 months. That means for every 4 months it fails. After every 4 months, in an average, after every 4 months it will fail. Okay, and the mean time to repair of the product is 2 weeks. That means once it fails, for 2 weeks it will be out of order. That means to repair it takes 2 weeks. Then what is the availability of the product? To find the availability, we have to use this particular formula, that is mean time between failures divided by mean time between failure plus mean time to repair. Now the thing is, here both of these are given, but both of them are in different units. So one is in months and another one is in weeks. So first you have to bring both of these to the same unit. So let us bring it to a common unit, that is days. So let us consider each month has 30 days, then 4 months will be 120 days, right? And each week has 7 days, so 2 weeks will be 14 days. So if you use this in this formula, that is availability is mean time between failure divided by mean time between failure plus mean time to repair. Just substituting it is mean time between failure is 120, mean time to repair is 14, so it is 120 by 134. So can anyone find this value, 120 divided by 134? What is this value? Yeah, it is 0.8955 or 89.55%. So what this means is your embedded system or embedded product is available for 89.55% of the time. Okay, it is not available for some 10.5% of time because it is under repair or it is under maintenance. Okay, this gives a measure of availability of the embedded product or an embedded system. There is another example where availability is given. Okay, availability of an embedded product is 90%. The mean time between failure of the product is 30 days. Then what is the mean time to repair in days or hours for the product? So you have been given with the embedded products availability, that is it is available for 90% or it is 0.9, and MTBF is given as 30 days. You are asked to find the mean time to repair. So again, we will make use of the same thing, same formula. MTBF is mean time between failure. It is given as 30 days. Availability is given as 90%, that is 0.9. So we will use the same formula, that is availability is mean time between failure divided by mean time between failure plus mean time to repair. So mean time between failure plus mean time to repair is, so if you just rearrange this, if you take this term to the left side, MTBF divided by AI, you will get here. Then what is, you are asked to find mean time to repair. So this will be equal to this minus this, right? If you bring this here. Now, can anyone substitute this and tell me mean time between failure is 30, availability is 0.9, again mean time between failure is 30. So you will get it as 3.33 days. If you find this thing, 30 divided by 0.9 minus 30, so that will be 3.33. If you convert it into hours, so 1 day is equal to 24 hours. So 3.33 into 24, if you do, you will get 80 hours. We are asked to find it in days or hours, so you can find it in both, that is 3.33 days or 80 hours. Okay, so this way some numerical examples can be asked on availability depending on this formula. If any of two things are given, you can find the third one by using this particular formula or expression. Okay, so that's about the maintainability quality attribute. Other two quality attributes are there, that is security and safety, which we will see in the next class.